Hey, y'all. Welcome to the VIP podcast. Sorry, I went a little country on that. But, dude, you got your seatbelt on? You ready?
Oh, my gosh. Was that the actual intro?
That's
that was
it.
Amazing.
That's it. We're doing this thing. And I did that as a nod to one of our guests here. So, and I explain that to you here in a little bit. But
you're going to have to deep dive on that one for me,
I will. Because Chris Paradiso thinks I'm the biggest country bumpkin on the planet.
Why? Just because you're from Arkansas?
We just have this thing. Like, his accent's great.
I think he's
from
jealous.
The Northeast.
That sounds defensive to me.
Chris, that was shout out to you.
He is the bomb.
He is the bomb. Speaking of the bomb, we got a
Not
bomb.
one.
Yeah, we got a bomb
crew.
list. A crew.
A crew.
Should we say a crew? We have a crew. We've got some incredible guests here lined up that I can't wait to get into this conversation. I would like to get into what this exactly is. What are they doing? Like AgencyPoint, I'm seeing it everywhere, but I want to know what they're doing. So I'm going to get into some of that.
Yes. They're creating something that hasn't yet been seen before in the industry, which is, I would say, like a financial consulting firm that's like specific to insurance. But it's more than that, right? It's more than that. It's hard to explain. I think we need to let them explain it.
I think we can even preface it with maybe they're assembling right now.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go. Guys, speaking of let's go, can we get into this conversation?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Let's go, y'all. It looks like Brady Bunch up there. We got all four boxes.
Right.
It looks like.
Sweet.
Here's a story.
Hey-o.
A lovely lady.
You're showing
Keep
your
singing.
age.
Keep going,
You're
Carrie.
showing your age, sis.
I could sing the whole damn thing.
Oh, yeah, me
Just
too.
and Sid's like, what the hell are you talking
what's
about? I don't
what's
know
the
what you're
Brady
talking about.
Bunch?
Yeah.
How do you spell
Oh,
that?
shut up,
my
Sid.
God,
Shut up,
Sid. That's
Sid.
hilarious.
Okay, I would like you all to know. Someone told me yesterday that I wouldn't know what the song "Walk Like an Egyptian"
You
was.
didn't. You had to listen to it last night.
No, but once I listened to it, I knew exactly what it was.
Okay. So, first of all, we're recording, so I'm going to go ahead and welcome you guys. I'm so glad you guys are here. We got a lot of personalities.
So many personalities.
Yeah, a lot of talent here.
So much talent.
So, Sid, I'm just going to put you on mute for a little bit, and I'm just going to take over.
That's
for a little
probably
bit.
fair.
I'm just kidding.
I'm just excited for these guys to show off and show up.
Yeah, dude. And so, for anybody that may be under a rock, don't know them, look them up on LinkedIn. I don't have time to go through that today, but
really look them up on LinkedIn.
Dude,
Yeah.
and get involved. But guys, again, welcome. So glad you're here. I'm going to start off. I've got a super important question for all four of you before we get into the hard questions.
We do start with the tough ones.
We do.
So buckle up.
So
top of the lineup. They're the top of the lineup. So.
That's right. I think probably all four of you, but I know at least three of you have been on quite a few stages in our industry and talked to a lot of different groups. I'll start with Carrie. Carrie, what's your walk-up song? Do you
don't say "Walk Like an Egyptian"?
Don't say walk. But if you had a walk-up song for every time you jump on stage, and this is while Carrie's thinking, that gives the other three of you time to think about your answer.
Also, don't say the Brady Bunch theme song.
I would not say that. Yeah.
Nick's like, that was
honestly,
mine.
I've only ever walked on stage twice to music, and once it was "Money" by Pink Floyd, and the other one was "This Girl's on Fire." I can't remember who sings that.
Yeah.
Isn't it Alicia Keys? Alicia Keys?
It is. That's right. Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
I would like it to be recognized that I remembered that artist for all those who were giving me music hate earlier.
There you go.
Recognize.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
All right. So
Congrats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Aaron, we'll go with you next. What will be your walk-up song?
Yeah, so I'm not much of a speaker myself, but at the office here we do a lot of games like ping pong or foosball. So we have a lot of tournaments, and when I win one of the tournaments, of which I do from time to time, I do the John Cena walkout music.
Oh,
Nice. Okay.
He's got the
rather
hair for it
enjoyable.
too.
Oh,
you have
yeah,
the hair
dude.
for it too. For
Oh
sure.
yeah.
I love
So the
it.
time is now. You guys can picture that. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yes.
hates it when I do it, but I like it. So.
Oh, that's
Yes.
awesome. That is awesome. Are you a wrestling guy?
No, well, there's actually like a big crowd here in the office that really got into fake wrestling for a bit, but I'm not too big into it. Yeah.
All right,
But
Chris.
they went to shows. And stuff,
Yeah,
so it's-
that's awesome. Chris, you're up.
Aaron Lewis. Am I the only one?
Oh, there you go.
Ooh.
I can dig it.
Okay.
Dig it. The Aaron Lewis of insurance. I get it. All right, Mick. Well, we'll end with you there.
Bring us home.
Bring us home.
So aside from the UNC fight song, because I am a Tar Heel, I would walk out to All I Do Is Win.
Nice.
Yes.
That's almost
Yes.
perfect. Yeah, that is almost perfect. I love it. Sid, do you know yours off the top of your head?
Oh, that's hard. For right now,
Yeah.
there's a song called In the Zone by a band called Carry the Torch that we were listening to this morning, and it is just like pure hype. It's like you take All I Do Is Win and then you put that on steroids, and that's this song.
Oh, nice.
So that would probably be the song that I would go
Awesome.
with.
And you,
There you go.
Heath?
Oh, mine would definitely be Bringing Sexy Back.
That seems fair. That seems fair.
Like-
I mean, that's an everyday occurrence for me.
Or
and
I was thinking I'm too sexy.
or
so-
that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, every day of my life.
Justin
I'm bringing
Timberlake?
Sexy Back. Dude, JT.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
He's
All right.
amazing.
Okay.
Alrighty. So now that we've got that out of the way, we can get into the easy questions. But starting off with, obviously there's a whole lot of talent, y'all talk to a lot of different people. I'm going to start. I'm going to do this kind of panel style, but I'd love to know what. Oh, Chris just took a drink, so I'm going to ask him first. What are some some trends and some of the things that you guys are seeing, or that you're seeing right now up in your neck of the world, and what are those challenges you're seeing? What are those trends that you're seeing right now, and how are what you guys doing kind of solving that and getting into some of those things? We'll start with you on that.
Number one thing we're finding that's difficult
Yeah.
is the industry has obviously changed during this market, and we were the king of writing hard risks. And anybody that had a strange risk for some reason would find us somewhere in the country. They found us, and we would find a place to write them. And it's not even the hardest of the hard risks anymore. It's, a body shop. Well, we don't want to insure body shops. We want to insure garages. Oh, mechanics. I'm like, okay, the guy's 37 years in business, never had a claim. It's a very strange time. Risks that don't seem very difficult to write are more difficult to write.
So
It's interesting.
are you saying that's even with carriers and with MGAs and brokers, wholesalers, the whole nine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mick, as you're shaking your head, what are you seeing? Obviously, you're seeing that challenge. But what are some of the things that you're dealing with? You work with a lot of agencies, and we talked about earlier. You're really starting to grow even more on the scene, and seeing your recognition with Forbes recently, and some of the things you've got going. What are you seeing out there? What are agencies coming to you with? What are some of those challenges that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think particular to why we decided to come together, the four of us, from the financial back end piece, I think it's starting to be much more of a problem and challenge for agents to understand their financials, understand their compensation structure, understand their books in general. I think the market, and I don't want to say it's hard, right? I mean, we know that it was and that it is, but I don't want to give it that type of glory. I just think the way that the market, the industry, and other industries that impact insurance have changed and are starting to evolve, it's making us as agents think a little bit more about, do we understand our numbers? Do we understand the budgets that we have or the budgets that we should have? What investments should we be making for some agencies to just stay afloat? I mean, I have a couple of pretty large agencies that are like, hey, if something doesn't change in 8 to 10 months, I really might be at zero. And I don't think
Wow.
folks understand that, right? Like, your larger agencies are seeing just as much financial strain as the startup and the smaller agencies.
Oh my gosh, I think there's some people that may have pulled over or stopped the treadmill for a minute, because that may have been a shocking statement for some. I saw the reaction from Carrie, from you on that. If you wanted to, add a little bit to that, because thank you, Mick, that was awesome. What do you think on that, Carrie?
So, obviously I have a lot of people reaching out to test their numbers because they think this might be the best time to exit this market. Here's the reality. Premiums are up. It's really difficult to find talent or keep talent. It's one of the hardest employment markets we've been a part of. And a lot of agencies are struggling to write new business. They're struggling to hold on to their book. And now might be the time. They're literally saying this was not something I was contemplating, but it's like a perfect storm. And now it might be the time to think about doing something different and know my options. So, I would just say it's a combination of multiple things, but the staffing part, I mean, your people are one of your most important assets. And when you have turnover that's unexpected and you've got the pressure of rewrites and difficulty writing, it becomes unsurmountable for some.
So, Carrie, knowing that you're the owner of Agency Focus, which is a company that helps agencies through the valuation process and better understand their numbers from a financial side of things, you've been, how old is Agency Focus now? It's a couple years.
It is 3.5 years old.
3.5. I was going to guess 3, so 3.5. Close. What you and I would even say before you founded Agency Focus, you were involved in when you were leading at the Ohio Association. You were helping with consulting and really digging into the back end of agencies. So you've seen this for a number of years. I'm hearing you say, hey, big red warning sign, things are bad. People are wanting to exit. Worse than it ever has been? I'm curious about your perspective specifically on that. Worse than it ever has been?
There's more people with more urgency thinking that this might be the time. So I don't know about worse. I just think it was easier to have a lifestyle agency and maybe not move as quick. But this market has changed that. There's a lot of pressure with staffing, a lot of pressure with leveraging technology, a lot of pressure with rewrite work. Like there's more urgency about it, is what I would say.
And that's the interesting.
Yeah, and Sid, I'll give you an example
Okay.
without naming names of any agencies, but there are several states that are struggling right now. And I have, in a particular state, 3 different agency principals that have come to me in the last 3 months and said, hey, Mick, I literally every other day receive a call from a carrier that's leaving, or they're shutting down, or they're non-renewing my book, or they're canceling my appointment. I now have to put all of my energy and effort in handling those communications, because remember, there are state laws that we have to abide by, right? There are rules and regulations that we have to do when these things happen. And they're telling me I can only get beat up so much to want to come back in tomorrow and do it all over again. And so that's what you're starting to see, is just, to Carrie's point, that external pressure that people didn't sign up for this. Right. And I think that's what you're starting to see more. And again, it doesn't really matter the size of the agency at this point. When states are doing what states have to do, or carriers are doing what they have to do, it impacts the principal first, because they have to decide, what am I going to do? And oh, by the way, premiums are going up, but commissions are shrinking.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Like,
what I
we
was
all
gonna
know
say.
carriers whose commissions have gone from single digits on renewal. Well, what does that do to your bottom line as well?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's the interesting part about it. You got premiums up, you got, commissions are down, you got carriers that are, exiting or putting moratoriums or having some, things in that nature. And then you've got, an absence not absence, but a lack of real talent that people are looking in that area. And then you've got, so many different things pulling at, different areas. Aaron, I want to bring you in this conversation a little bit of what you're seeing from that back end of it, with all the money side of it, and with, trying to balance, and plus on top of that, you've got to spend money to make money. So you've got to invest in technology, invest in your people. I know that's a hot button for Chris on the investing in your people, but, from what you're seeing and what you're working with agencies on, how do you balance all of those different things, the cash flow going in, cash coming out, all these different things, and investing? I could keep going, but I'll stop the question so you can actually answer it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. I think anytime there's a change in a market in any industry, there's going to be winners and losers, right? And it just happens, right? People are going to adapt and change, and some people will continue with the old ways and not change. So I think what everyone said is absolutely correct, right? We have a hard market. Things are tough to collect revenue on. We have employees that are asking for more pay or leaving agencies, right? And so people are getting squeezed in between the principals. And we have rising technology, AI, the talks of it, et cetera, right? And so people are, I would say, in a harder place than they were a couple of years ago, right? So what people are I think the smarter agencies are doing now is really understanding their numbers, right? They want to know, okay, what's going in and what's going out. Before, maybe it was less important, right? They were always collecting a good check from the carriers and they were paying out. They always had cash in their bank. Now they're really drilling down to what am I spending on? What am I collecting on? What's this year versus last year? What vendors are costing me money? So I think that agency owners are more focused on that, which is going to be important.
Maybe we can get into how you guys are helping agencies, and then I would love to dig into what some of those numbers are and if they've changed, and how specifically you're helping agencies. But first, Chris, could you tell a little bit on the background of the story of, I think of you guys as like the financial insurance Avengers.
The Avengers, yeah, exactly.
How did you all come to, I guess it's just such a unique, interesting group of people to come together to solve this challenge. And then, in a sentence or two, what the business does and is.
And it's perfect you asked him. That's Captain America right there.
That's
exactly why you asked that Avenger first
So it started with me having an issue within my firm, just as many agency owners have, where maybe the specific person who was at the helm of taking care of the books wasn't quite taking care of them as the best for the agency, let's just say. So what ended up happening was I made a call to a good friend, and he said to me, I got to connect you with Aaron Stocks. So from that first conversation that we had multiple conversations. So he had been doing the books, but one of the first conversations, I said, someday we're going to team up and we're going to do something very specific to the insurance space. Because coming from life insurance, we always called it true upping, which was understanding exactly what you were getting paid per account. Like in life insurance, especially with a New York Life or Northwestern, you get residuals. It's not like the term stuff that most agents are used to in the P&C world. It's the financial aspect of it. So that true up was super important. So when I first connected with Aaron, the first thing I talked about is reconciling, making sure we're getting paid what we're supposed to be getting paid. And in that first year, he can attest, he found $66,000 to $68,000 of unpaid commissions. Wow. And I don't try to scare agents to say, oh, insurance carriers are trying to screw you. No, there's technology, there's mishaps, there's human beings, we make errors. And not so much now, but 5 years ago, most people weren't having automatic deposits of checks, right? So they were mailing checks and maybe you didn't get them. So what ended up happening was, after so many years of doing business, Aaron reached out to me and said, hey, that conversation stuck. What do you think? And I don't think I took 10 minutes and said, been waiting for this call. This is, we had a really good relationship. We don't always agree on everything, but we communicate extremely well. Even when there was tiny little mishaps, it was always a great communication, a great follow through to fix whatever issues were. And that's how this started. And I said, hey, I don't think we do this alone. I think we recruit a few people and bring the team together. And the one thing Aaron talked about is, the CFO aspect, which he was handling for me as a part-time CFO. When we brought Carrie in, Carrie wanted to make sure she had aspects to the CFO stuff, which I was in the midst of moving to her because of our relationship. I wasn't trying to take it away from Aaron and PFS. And he said, hey, it's not what we specialize in. I think if we bring this team together, Carrie will be the perfect example. So how this all came together was a conversation about five and a half years ago.
Wow.
When I was first moving with Aaron.
This has been in the works for 5.5 years?
Not really. It's really been, but we had the conversation.
Right.
Yeah. So kind of.
Like, I've said this, until there are insurance-specific CPAs, just like I say to people, you go to a heart doctor. Why don't you go to an ankle doctor to get somebody to work on your heart? You go to a heart surgeon because that's who specializes.
Oh, yeah.
Why do we go to, generalists who don't know our industry? And
why do we? Wait, why do we? Is it because there's a lack of talent, the niche talent?
I think it's the easy road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think naturally human beings love the easy road.
Yeah.
It's the easy road.
Yeah. Okay. So Carrie, did you want to ask a question? I'm on a roll here, man. So
No, it's just funny because before we hit go, she was
I
like,
know, I
"I'll
said-
sit back and let you take
I
over. These are your friends. You
know.
got it. Whatever." And then now
said
she's
that.
like, "Screw you. I got this." So
listen, I'll back off.
no, you got it, baby. Go get it.
Somebody
right.
take over because I will. I'll
Right,
take over.
get it, girl.
Carrie, help me understand. You walk into an agency. They hear about AgencyPoint. They've seen the red sign. They're nervous. They don't have a good handle on their finances. Where do you start? What numbers are you looking for? Paint that picture for me.
Yeah, so any agency, I'm gonna find out what their statements say. I'm gonna get 12 months of their financials, and that means a profit and loss statement. I'm gonna get a balance sheet. We're actually gonna go down to the transaction level and figure out what's inside that agency. Where are they allocating their resources? And also what of their resources is discretionary and what is essential to running that business. So from my perspective, I'm trying to get to how could this agency operate, not how is it operating? Because the reality is, I mean, these are all small businesses, and I use the word discretionary, and everybody thinks that that's like a bad word. But the reality is, agencies are trying to do multiple things as an organization. They're trying to grow, they're trying to provide for their clients and provide for their staff, but they're also trying to minimize taxes. So you might find expenses on a P&L for that purpose, and you've got to be able to delineate that and say, if you reallocated these expenses in a different way and showed your profitability and or reallocated them for growth, your performance could follow. So you got to first say, where are you? Get your baseline, and then say, where are the opportunities to go forward?
Can you go ahead?
No, I don't know if this is on the same wavelength, but you know, Mick, so a lot of things that you do overlap there, talking about the strategies that you put in place to help that growth. Can you talk to me a little bit about, you know, where you come in, where she leaves off, with some overlap and referrals there, and what that looks like there? Because I know you do a lot of big things in that area.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are partners in what we do. I mean, we're constantly referring people to each other. And here's the deal, Heath, right? Like someone comes to me and they're like, Mick, I need to grow 10%. And my first question is, what does that mean? Right? Because I could grow my revenue 10%, but my bottom line actually goes backwards, right? Because what am I spending to get that 10% growth? So I always ask, are you growing top line? You're growing bottom line. And if it's bottom line growth, hey, before we start, you need to talk to Carrie so I can figure out where you are, because I can't help you if I don't know what that bottom line truly looks like. If it's top of the funnel, I can do that all day, right? But if you're trying to impact your bottom line, we have to start with that assessment from Carrie, and then also having Aaron's team come in to truly shore up what you think those numbers really are.
Is there an objective standard for when an agency should be considering top line versus bottom line growth, or is it purely based upon the agency owner's desire, opinion, wishes,
No, I think it
dreams?
depends on where you are and where you're trying to go, because you could be at an early stage where top line is all that matters. You could be at, getting ready for an exit in 1 to 3 years where bottom line matters. Or you could be in the middle and need both. So I don't think there's an either or type scenario. I think it truly depends on what are you trying to accomplish and what's the time frame of that accomplishment. And then that can help me determine, is this more of a top line focus or bottom line focus?
Carrie, you want to jump in there real quick?
Yeah, so I actually could not agree with Mick more, and I just want to double down on something. If you're a brand new agency and you're super focused on the bottom line, you actually might hurt your ability to grow, because when you're first starting, you have to invest in the business in order to get the infrastructure, get the staff. So it truly matters where you are. The only thing I would also add is if you're getting ready to exit and all you care about is the bottom line, you're going to be disappointed in your number, because things that drive the value of an agency is it growing? Can it do it profitable? And is it transferable? So if all you are is profitable, but you're flat or declining growth, you will not command the same kind of price that an agency is that can grow, do it profitable, and is transferable. So you really have to, there becomes a shift where you've got to manage both and run your agency like you're selling it tomorrow as you near making that decision.
Yeah, I think everything that you guys are saying, is dead on in so many ways, but also knowing that every single agency is different, and whether different geographic or different size or different philosophies. And so, Aaron, bringing you back in on this, like how do you and how does AgencyPoint, how do you guys navigate that? And is there just a specific set of questions, or is that something you can just evaluate just from talking in a few minutes with them? Aaron, where do you come at on that part of it, navigating all of that?
I think, to making Carrie's point, knowing what their goals are is going to be extremely important, right? If this is a lifestyle firm that's been around for 50 years, been around the same size, that's going to be different than a very motivated principal who is trying to grow this very large and maybe have an exit, right? And you do need to approach those different for accounting. So someone that's approaching an exit, you really are focused on cutting costs that are discretionary, right? But keeping top line revenue growing. And so that's going to be crucial if they're trying to exit, because most of these agencies are going to sell based off of their EBITDA numbers, right? And so knowing that number that they want to sell for, seeing what you can cut on a discretionary end, and then it's still growing top line revenue, I think is going to be crucial. If this is a lifestyle practice, they're going to pass off this business to their kids, then it is very much less so important to spend time and money on accounting for that. So you can just really have monthly accounting. You don't need to hyper focus on getting your EBITDA up, things like that. So I think there is a big difference. You have to understand that up front.
Chris, can you still have a lifestyle agency in this era in the industry, to use a Taylor Swift term?
I absolutely think you can.
Okay. I'd love to hear from you on that, from like an actual agency owner out there in it. So you're still, I'm imagining you're still in purchase mode, mergers and acquisition mode. You've got other agencies outside of yours. I mean, do you still see lifestyle agencies that are thriving and doing well in this market?
All depends on how you define thriving.
Okay.
He was teeing you up to the caveat. That's too short of an answer.
They're out there.
Chris.
They're not thriving, but they're still doing good because they're not investing in technology. Mm-hmm. Premiums are going up. I mean, it really depends.
But is that
on
fake growth or real growth?
Well, it all depends on who you ask.
Yeah, I got you.
To me, it's fake growth. Where you're going to feel this is 5 years from now. We keep talking about this. What are we losing? What are we losing and what are we writing? We're writing new business, making higher premiums with less commissions, and we're losing business that is starting to grow in premium that we made, in a lot of cases, 33% more commissions. So we halted for 90 days. We are not writing any new personal lines business. We are 100% focused on retaining business. Why? It's much more profitable. Oh, yeah. Why do I want to write something new and lose 33% of my commissions when I can focus 100% on retaining business? So I never thought I would sit here and tell you, we're not writing new business. So when you call my office right now. I'm sorry, at this time right now, we're not taking on any new clients.
Mm-hmm. Carrie, question for you on the numbers. And Aaron, feel free to jump in. Mick, Chris as well. When I think about an agency that is going through the transition, lifestyle agency, to this new, like maybe fully matured, financially savvy agency that has a really good handle on the business operations and the balance sheets, what are those numbers that you would recommend they start looking at first? And do you go in and educate them on these numbers, or is it more hands off for them? Like, hey, don't worry about it. Just give us the CSVs and we'll figure it out for you. You don't have to lift a finger, right? What does that transition look like?
Yeah. So if we're talking about how all of us work together, so I need what Aaron does in order to do my job. So a lot of times I have an agency come to me and say, accounting's not my forte. Honestly, relationships and coverage is my forte. This is not an area I've really focused on. I need your help. And typically they say, man, my bookkeeper, through the process, will see that their financials are not telling a story. There's numbers on a page, but they're not actually telling a story. So that is when I probably refer, I have no idea how many a week, but a fair number of people a week over to Aaron's team so they can get their financials on an ongoing basis done correctly. The numbers that I look at are, number one, are you growing? And I calculate real growth. So if someone's acquiring, if they've sold a book, if they're, I actually get a growth rate for them and a retention rate for them, because you need to know those numbers to know where you need to focus. If your retention is, if you don't know your retention rate, you have no idea whether or not you have something to worry about. And to Heath's point, retention on the normal calculator right now looks crazy from a revenue standpoint. You need to know policy and customer retention, not just revenue retention. So number one, we got to figure that out. Is the agency growing or declining or flat? Second is, where are you putting your money? Where are you investing, and are you getting a return on your investment? Largest place that every agency invests is their people. And I want to know, how are you investing in your people? Because if you're outsourcing and you have high investment in your people, you need to put that all together and say, what are all the human resources that I'm investing in? And does it line up with the industry? So you're not going to find that number on a P&L. Someone has to calculate it. And what I mean by that is you have to take your total revenue, the total amount that you're putting towards people, and make it a percentage of the revenue. So the total amount that you put towards your people divided by your revenue is the percentage that you're allocating there. And those are the benchmarks that we use in order to say, are you above? Are you below? Are you, that combined with your performance, we can start looking and telling the story of the agency. Really just looking at a P&L, like if you print it out from QuickBooks and look at it, the insights are not going to fly off the page. So I help them understand what those insights are and how you find them. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. You bring up thinking, and Chris has already said it. You said it. I'm a big believer in it as well, as how important the renewal is. It's so much more effective to keep a policy than to chase after new business. And Mick being having so much to do with the sales side of things and helping people build that. Are there some things that I would say new, but are there some things that you're doing that may be a little bit different than we were doing things in the past that you're doing now to help them maintain the book with all things we talked about earlier, with growing premiums, shrinking commissions? What are some of the things you're teaching agencies to make sure they keep the back door closed?
Yeah, well, one of the things is making sure that as an agency principal, you're running your business like a CEO, right? And that you truly are having a CEO mindset. And by that, when we talk about what are the numbers that I look at first and foremost, I look at Business 101. How many widgets did I sell? What's my cost per widget? What's my price per widget? Right? So from a new business perspective, how many new accounts have we sold? What's our average revenue per that account? And then how long is that account staying with me, right? Most of the time in our space, we don't think like that. We're told to sell as many policies as you can, and we don't look at what is that policy costing us. Do I need to, now to answer your question, Heath, do I need to look at a higher or a different type of client? Has my ideal client changed based on the market or the trends that we're in? Because maybe I can't sell as many widgets because I'm focused on selling them to the wrong people. So I get business leaders to think in that concept, because Business 101 is never going to change. It doesn't matter the industry or the widget. We have to start thinking of widgets. What's our cost per widget? What's our price per widget? And then we can start thinking of the direction that we need to go.
Okay, so granted, I hear you 100%. Business 101 doesn't change, but...
Are you about to challenge him?
No. Well, No.
Let's go.
I feel it. Go
He's on
for it.
Forbes.
I
You
was in
can't
the gym
challenge
this
him.
morning. We can arm wrestle like that.
Dude, I've tried to
This is
arm
the
wrestle her
second-
twice now.
This is the second time I've been asked to arm wrestle. I don't know if it's because of this triathlon thing. Okay, I have weak arms, guys. So it's all in the
it's
legs.
the legs, right?
It's all in the legs. So I hear you. Business 101 doesn't change. I'm curious though.
Here's the but.
I mean, to some extent, I feel like, does the financial model for the agency ever change? I guess I think about how accounting in corporate has changed over decades, right? There's different numbers that we look at, more numbers that are looked at. You know, to a large extent, I feel like we're still stuck looking at the same numbers, revenue per employee, and I guess I wonder, like, do those actually tell the full story? Are there other numbers that you wish we could get to that would help us better understand the agency and how we can help it grow, or increase bottom line, top line?
I'll go first, then I'll let
Okay.
the smart people on the call go
Okay.
after me.
Arm wrestle activated.
so-
Let's go.
So what I'm going to tell you is, again, Business 101, outside of the insurance space, I work with several Fortune 1000 companies. All principles are the same. I would say in our industry, we've kind of chosen not to look at things as a full business, but we operate like insurance agencies. So again, it's not a knock on what we do, right? But we get our carrier reps that come in and they tell us what they're focused on. So that becomes our focus. And the technology that we have in our industry, i.e. the management systems that we have, very few of them can tell you very quickly what your average customer lifetime value is. Right? We don't look at things like sales velocity, right? Handily.
Yes.
Every other industry, they do
Right.
that all day. So those principles don't change. We just have to open our mind to what does it really mean to be a CEO and running a business versus running an insurance agency? Because again, we're capped to the reports that my AMS can run. That's what I focus on. That doesn't necessarily tell you the full picture of a business.
But remember, Mick, most agency owners were very successful agents. So they sold
Yeah.
policies.
They were salespeople, right?
So that is where the transition never really happens.
Right.
We got to stop acting like an insurance agent and start,
Exactly.
and I don't mean that in any disrespect, is CEO thinks very differently than an insurance agent who thinks that we got to sell this policy. Well, okay, if we would sell this policy, okay, are we making money or are we losing money?
Right.
And I know this is a conversation we're having with a lot of agents is you're writing these $5,000 policies and you're not making money. You're losing money.
Yeah.
And if you don't keep them for 3 years, you really lost money. And what's it
Or
costing
the
you to
longer you
service?
keep them, the more money you actually lose.
Well, that's what I
Correct.
was about to get into. So, Chris, while you've got the green box, and I would love to hear from you on this, and then Mick, I'd love to get into this with you too. Is even though we have this conversation right now of keeping the back door closed and retention, there's certain clients that just need to be fired. And, I preach that a lot, and I still get agencies to this day, and all 3 or 4 of you are shaking heads. People look at me with this sideways look of like, what? Fire client? Why would you do that? But Chris, starting with you as an agency owner right now, is that something that, obviously you agreed with me, but is that something you practice? How do you practice? Talk to me a little about what your thoughts on firing clients, because there's some that just aren't profitable.
Not profitable. How about
Or just not worth it.
Not correct. And non-pay, right? They're non-pay every month. I mean, what are we doing? Risk versus reward, right? Not only are they not profitable, what are they costing you long term?
Bingo.
Right? So we tier our clients, specifically AAA, AA, single A, and we are always looking to turn single A into AA or AAA.
Is that a baseball reference, or is that just a
No, we're trying to get everybody to the pros.
There you go. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
We want to have a professional client team, and it's
Love that.
always in the working. So, single A clients are very costly, not only to the bottom line, they're very costly to culture, because they're the people walking in off the street causing problems like we had an issue this morning. The whole office is now turned upside down because of one person's behavior on a $900 annual premium.
Yeah, they're the ones who are causing the most problems, and I think you're dead on with that. And before
minus financial, Heath, we need to talk about the cost these specific people are to our culture. We label those clients turkeys in our management system.
I like it.
I think that we call it pruning the client tree in accounting, right? So the first guy that pruned a tree, people will probably look at him like, "What are you doing? Why are you cutting up this tree?" And they're like, "Well, it's to produce more fruit." They're like, "That makes no sense," And so the first guy who started pruning his client list was probably laughed at the same way. But I think it's now well established that you should look at your bottom 10% of clients, and those probably aren't good fits for you.
And this is a great transition for me, and if that's okay with you, I'm going to take a small turn, but you brought up a good point. Yeah, so people that may not know, myagencypoint.com is the website that you guys operate from, and
myagencypoint.com.
Go check it out. But I look at it, and we've had a lot of conversation. I've seen a lot of conversations about bookkeeping, taxes, payroll, but you guys also do a lot of other things here when it comes to human capital and technology and some other things there. Mm-hmm. As you've already brought up, your people and human capital. I would love to transition into some of that. And I guess I'll start with you, Aaron, at a high level. Like, what are you guys doing when I see human capital management? Obviously, there's a lot that ties in. Every one of these things ties into money, obviously. But, what are you guys doing from that standpoint, just to lead off conversation, and then I'll get into some other questions from there. But what are you guys doing when it comes to that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think the insurance industry is always traditionally really bad at HR because we have a lot of long-term employees. We don't have to do a lot of recruiting really, right, over the years. We put everyone on salary and think it's okay and pretty much goes unnoticed, right? And so for agencies, we like to help with the recruiting, to the onboarding, to the maintenance of the employees, to the offboarding, right? And so, right now there's a lot of big ticket items coming down depending on your state, on salaried exempt minimum thresholds going up. In California, we have these workplace violence prevention programs, and every state is a bit unique. So keeping the agency in compliance and keeping the employees happy is important. If you turn over an employee and you shouldn't have turned them over, let's say they were a rock star, that will cost you more than their salary raise you should have gave them, right? So I would say HR is something that's often overlooked, but it is equally as important.
When you talk about onboarding, and another interesting term that I hadn't heard in a while, and I'll admit, maybe it's because of my Arkansas, but offboarding is another one I'll get into in a minute. But when you talk about onboarding, any one of you four, y'all can, Farkle over it or arm wrestle. Y'all know what Farkle means?
Never heard. Is that an Arkansas term?
Rock, paper, scissors. Anyway.
Okay.
But I would love to know from you guys. Golly, now Chris is going to make fun of me after this call. But
I'm going to leave that one alone.
He always makes fun of me about something, and I love it. But anyhow, so what do you guys see in best practice-wise when it comes to onboarding?
I could take it. I think having a plan and a process in place, not only from the onboarding, but from the recruiting. So, like, if you're interviewing people and their interview process is bad, even if you don't hire them, those people aren't going to like you ever reapply in the future. So making the process smooth from the application, don't have a million questions, to the interview. We always recommend a tryout time. And then the onboarding, have a plan and process in place so that way it looks like you've done this before. And then, try to make it, after we onboard an employee, we give them like 90 days and we request their feedback about, hey, how was that? And they'll come back to us and say, I didn't like this, or this was hard to do, et cetera. So I think getting feedback and just refining your process from the onboarding is going to be the most important.
You need to have access to an intranet. That is where that allows us to meet our potential candidates and our new hires, where some are going to learn better with video, some are going to learn better with PDFs and reading, and most are going to have a combination. You're going to have a human being working with you, but there's also going to be video and some reading. So the intranet is vitally important to us. We seem to always be hiring, so we are constantly in training. So I would say the intranet has probably been one of the key things that we've implemented for onboarding.
And so in that intranet, do you have a library of resources in there and videos and trainings and whatnot built into
Over
that?
1,000 videos, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Everything from how you set your phone up, to how do you request a day off, to how do you view your paycheck, how do you view the 401k, to every process and procedure, all the markets. Okay, you have a 2-family with circuit breakers. This is where you need to go. constantly always being worked on. It's always being updated.
If you could give the audience listening right now, it might be thinking, man, that's a lot. That's daunting. That's a big task. Please tell them I'm sure it was a lot of work, but anyone can do that, and tell them like maybe a little bit of advice on how they could get started on an intranet. Any one of you, but Chris, if you wanted, since you started on that, what did you do to get that started?
I hire the right people.
Okay. Yeah.
I would recommend, if you guys like AI, like ChatGPT, et cetera, you can actually start your library in ChatGPT, and it can store things for you, and it can also create the content. So like now when we create our PFS universities for internal training, we use ChatGPT, and it can actually store the data in there. And it's like I can go in and say, hey, give me the videos or the material on this, and it will pull it from our
Keith, I'll tell you, this is an area that causes agencies to not be transferable. Not having what Chris just said is something, it's not just onboarding, but it creates holes and linchpins inside your agency if only one person knows this process or this information or this whatever. So oftentimes after evaluation, agencies will realize like, oh my goodness, we've got like 3 roles that nobody has a clue what to do. Sometimes it's really not the sales, it's the operational roles inside the agency. They don't know how to issue commissions or pay payroll or do whatever because either the owner or one other person has that responsibility. Documenting those processes and then testing it is key. Like literally forcing it like once a month or once a year or whatever it is that someone else has to step through that process and actually make it happen will de-risk the overall organization. So if you don't have the processes, it makes it difficult. But if you also don't test that other people can follow the process, it will create a problem inside an agency.
Wow, I would say that's like really telling people they have to wear multiple hats no matter what. And if you don't, you could potentially be, a dead duck in the water, that's just your agency's pointless at that point.
Orange Mike Chad over there. So another interesting thing, if you didn't have anything else to add to that real quick, I've got it. I haven't heard the term offboarding. It's like that's fascinating. Is there some intentionality, some things there that maybe some of the agencies that you guys are working with are not doing? And what are some of those common things? I never thought about that. It was just like, it's not working out. Wish you the best of luck. See you later. But, you guys obviously, there's more to it than that, obviously. So offboarding, what does that look like? And what is that? Talk to me about that from high level or low level, whatever. I'm interested in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about consistency in everything that you do, right? Whether it's onboarding or offboarding, is you've got to have a plan, and you've got to make sure that you deliberately follow whatever that plan or those processes are, because at the end of the day, it's your culture. And we all have seen where we have pieces that don't fit, and we recognize it as leaders, but your team also recognizes it. And your team probably saw it much faster than we saw it because they're with those people every day. So being able to have some type of offboarding process, and not just the person, right? But all the other things that have to happen. So vendor setup, software, all the things that you onboard, you also have to make sure that you offboard, right? How many of us still have users in our AMS? Because it is much easier to not move those policies. So we just keep that user there, and we know, hey, it says Sally, but it's not really Sally that's working it. Well, then Chris's favorite point of trying to do automation, well, now you get a message that comes out from Sally. Sally's no longer with the company. You have to put in a weird email address, and now your customer experience is bad. So offboarding isn't just the person, but it's all the things that you have to make sure that you're doing on the back end as well that we a lot of time take for granted.
I would argue that offboarding is more important than onboarding.
Wow.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that is.
And the other aspect to offboarding is we always think of offboarding as somebody leaving. We're in the midst of offboarding somebody from management to recalculate them in a different position, right? We run off the EOS, you have to have the right people in the right seats, right? And sometimes we don't have the right people in the right seats. So critically, important is offboarding, because you're moving from management into a different seat. And that plays a whole different role. And I think, and I wholeheartely agree with Aaron, offboarding is more important than onboarding.
An exit interview will tell you more about your agency than you want to know. I'm telling you that right now.
Wow.
If
you
an
can look
exit
in the
interview
mirror.
with someone leaving and they have nothing to lose and they won't hold back, that's more information than you'll get from anyone else.
Yeah, I believe that. Last question, and then we got to let you guys go. Unfortunately, even though we don't want to, because I could probably stay on this podcast
Oh,
for
for
another
sure.
2 hours talking to you guys. What's the role of technology in making sure that the financial back end is secure and stable, and looking at all the KPIs that matter for growth?
I could jump in real quick on the others. So we were talking about earlier that accounting has been evolving, right? Well, it's really not the accounting process that's been around for thousands of years, debits and credits, right? But it's our ability to analyze the data, with larger computers, more access to data, and AI to help us actually look at what it means. And so we're in an age right now where we have access to more information at our fingertips than we've ever had. And so if you don't know, the key things like revenue per employee or just simple things, you're behind. And there will be things in the future right now that we're talking about that the data will be able to analyze even further than what humans can do, right? And so I think from a technology standpoint, it's really, you've always had the data, now you need to be able to analyze it better.
How we're doing it today will be very different than how we're doing it in 3 years from now. And I don't think it's going to be 3 years.
I hope so.
I think AI is the real deal. And
Yeah.
we're going to see.
A little change never hurt anybody. So wonderful. Thank you guys so much. The Financial Avengers, everyone. Insurance Avengers.
The Insurance
And
Avengers.
I was going to say, but really quick, myagencypoint.com. Make sure you go to myagencypoint.com.
And-
This is the dream
yeah.
team. You don't want to miss out. At least just take a look, see what they're offering. You never know when, you might want to partner up and work with people who can really help your agency move forward.
And a rumor that I'd heard is you guys, have been talking, someone over there of the Avengers has been talking to some people on our end of working even closer with Vertafore and maybe on an Orange partner level, down the road. Again, not announcing that yet, but hopefully that's going to happen down the road. And just, getting that relationship even further is that, obviously there's a rumor there because there's some hot Ned's hotting, some heads nodding. God bless America. So thank you guys so much for that. You guys be on the lookout for that partnership and that relationship hopefully down the road. And again, myagencypoint.com. Check that out. Thank you guys again so much. Audience, thank you guys for checking this out. I hope you guys will reach out to them.
Yes, do it. Wonderful. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks,
again.
guys.
Thanks for having us.
Man, what a great episode.
Dude, that was fire. Just it made me think,
Yeah, you always like those. I always like the ones that give me heartburn, the spicy
the
episodes.
spicy ones.
I mean, you do have to get your Rolaids out of her.
I do, because we got some great guests that we had to share their opinions. We had to get that out there.
Well, and listen, that's not the last great guest we're gonna have. We got so many more lined up
Dude.
this season.
You got to come back every single time. And how do you do that? How do they do that? How do they?
I'm gonna tell him, man.
You gotta tell him.
Go to YouTube, hit the subscribe button, or make sure that you follow us on your favorite podcast channel.
And I'm watching the numbers, so I'll know if you hit subscribe or not. So
He will. He stalks.
I do. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, or it's gonna hurt my feelings. You don't want to do that now. So come back next week, hang out with us. We got another amazing guest. See you on the
Peace.
next one.